This is a somber day. I don't want to catastrophize because I'm not sure it's the time to do that yet. But this day does indeed need and deserve to be marked. I'm actually wearing a mic today because I want to make sure you hear every word. I'm going to be doing a series of very short, and I do mean very short, I'm trying to try to get in and out in less than 5 minutes, of what the ramifications are for women in general, for America as a whole, and also and especially to Black and brown people in the wake of this decision that will have reverberations for years to come. In this series of very fast, very quick lives, which will then be put into a series so you can see all 5 of them, I'm going to be going over these following subtopics, all under the heading of today's Supreme Court decision. The first one is absolutely nothing is settled law. Absolutely nothing is settled law. That needs to be remembered always. Number 2, panic is a privilege. Panic is a privilege. Number 3, learn from Black people. Black people have been dealing with disappointments from both the legislative and the judicial branch, as well as the administrative branch, as long as there have been Black people on North American shores. People clutching their pearls and saying this is the worst thing that happened ever need to take a very hard look at how that lands on their Black and brown brethren. We'll talk about that. Number 3, as much as possible, take yourself out of the story. When we're looking at meta, when we're looking at macro, one way to try to make sense of it is to make it smaller, to condense it, to contract it into the micro. And in so doing, we can completely lose sight of the bigger picture and also lose a certain amount of empathy and solidarity with those outside of our own narrow frame. We're going to talk about that in ways to ensure that we do not do that. The next one will be bodily autonomy. Bodily autonomy cannot be decoupled from full emancipation. And I think that it is an important thing to say and to remember as we are coming off of Juneteenth, which was the full, well, in some ways, the full measure of emancipation. What we are talking about here is bodily autonomy and the freedom of women to make their own moral and ethical choices as full agents. So we cannot decouple that. We cannot decouple this from our emancipation and from our agency, both physical and existential. And lastly, the sword of unintended consequences. It would be a mistake for us to think of this decision as a one and done. They put this down, there's nothing that we can do other than yell for a little bit, wring our hands, and be sad, and then it's done. I will say that there are some people who are hoping that a certain cohort does exactly that. But a lot of times with restrictive policies, both in terms of what's done outside in the public square or codified by legislation or the judiciary, is that very rarely do people think about the full consequences, the full measure of what decisions mean. And even though it's been 49 years since Roe v. Wade, and there have been people opposed to Roe v. Wade, sometimes very vocally and stridently, and in this case today, successfully. There is always a question about what these consequences, intended and not, tend to do. We see this when any sort of policy is brought about by broad brushstrokes, whether it be drug policy, whether it be education policy, whether it be healthcare policy, whether it be housing policy. People like to boil down incredibly complex issues that demand context, that demand your entire brain, as well as not just your brain, but your ability to use your head, heart, and gut. People want to reduce that down to a mere clause or paragraph or sentence. It's not easy to do. It's almost impossible to do. Some of the unintended consequences of Roe v. Wade in the first place in 1973, when I was 3 years old, is that it turned on privacy. There were some people even then in 1973 that said that that might come back and bite them in the tuchus. I haven't read anything, but right now it seems that perhaps it did. But that's less important than the unintended consequences of throwing Roe v. Wade back to the states. One of the things that's true about some regressive and restrictive policies is that people can clamor for them, sound and fury, right? Knowing, or at least in the back of their minds, hoping that what they are advocating for never comes to pass, and what they are denigrated actually keeps happening. This is a very, very big deal. Usually restrictive and regressive policies like these hurt those on the bottom of the distribution, however you define it: income, education, race. An upper middle class person, I'm thinking of a conservative town in San Diego County. A conservative person in Poway, for instance, can vote all he wants for conservative legislatures and a conservative president that will appoint conservative justices. But in the back of his mind, he knows that he can throw money at a situation, and his 16-year-old daughter will be able to ride the storm. That his 40-year-old wife, if something untoward happened to her, in the case of an assault, that he would be able to find a way to honor his wife. In the case of his son, whose wife just found out that the baby at half term is no longer viable, that it's a choice between his daughter-in-law and the fetus. He knows that he will be able to make choices, even if he has to throw a lot of money at it and buy a couple of plane tickets. He knows, and it's a he knows that he will not have to bear the brunt of what he voted for, except unless the laws get tightened. People who often are pro-restrictive policies for other people usually make sure that there are more than a few escape hatches for themselves. Sometimes, most of the time, they're right. But nowadays, in this new heightened climate, will they be right forever? And in the same sense, will the pain and the shock and the panic of the last few hours serve to mobilize in a durable way, or will it serve to stymie the loyal opposition? My name is Lace Watkins. If you like what you're hearing, continue to hear it. Make sure that you come in for the rest of my hot takes for the day. There will be 6 of them. And also consider supporting the Liaison Race Center for Racial Equity. If you have any questions, drop them down in the comments. I would love to hear what you have to say from a racial justice perspective, yes, but also justice once in a global way as well. I'll be back with more of my perspectives. If you would like to hear more of those perspectives, make sure that you click the like and subscribe button on all the platforms in which you see this video. Keep walking.